Not a problem.
And oh, there we go. If you can start with some updates from Fort Collins, that would be fantastic.
Thank you again for allowing the DDA to participate in this. We The DDA has been working. There's been a couple staff members that have been working full time in the office doing stuff since COVID, and just recently our staff has been back in the office full time in the last week or so. Some of the projects that we worked on, I'll list them and I can go into more detail as people have questions. Early on in the during COVID, one of the things that we partnered with was feeding our community. It was a combination of both Bohemian and local restaurants trying to feed those that in need. DDA really, we were just more of a financial sponsor partner in that we budgeted around $20,000 to be able to help support that program. One of the things as businesses started coming back, we recognized there was a need for hand sanitizer, the regulatory signage, curbside parking. So those are things that we did. We purchased about 155 gallons of hand sanitizer, and we're making hand sanitizer free and available to any downtown business that needs it. We also created signage, and we worked with Toolbox Creative, and we did a campaign. You may have seen them if you've been downtown. It's a business as unusual campaign, and all the stickers, the social distancing stickers, all the regulatory signs. We wanted it to feel less regulatory and more branded for downtown. And we've sidewalk stickers, posters, in-force stickers. We've purchased those, and we made those available to any business downtown that is needing those. And then we worked with parking services and engineering department. They have been, for a city organization that is the departments that are normally regulatory in nature, parking services and the engineering department, and really kind of the enforcement arm on a lot of things. They've really stepped up and helped us and create some unusual things. We've been able to install curbside parking for businesses downtown. In that sign, they were not regulatory. We have about 100 different signs, and they fluctuate throughout. And I kind of manage that with parking services. We produced all the signs, bought all the cones, or rented all the cones, and we're placing them out as needed and removing them as requested. What other things are we doing? A few other things we partnered with. We provided some funding for security in the North Ozatlan Center when they were using that as a shelter during COVID, and recognized the need for private security. So those are a lot of the projects we're working in. And probably the biggest thing that most people here might want to learn more about is we have taken on a role just recently, Kat, like you explained, with the Downtown Business Association. As many of you may know, Downtown Business Association is funded primarily through events. Their two biggest events, Colorado Brewers Festival and New West Fest, are the two largest, and I think it comprises close to 90% of their funding. And without that funding stream, and without other events happening right now, they have the inability to kind of move forward at this point. They're on hold. But we recognize the communication aspect, the marketing for downtown, and the communications to business downtown is probably as critical as it's ever been. And so what the DDA has done is we are taking on that role, and we are hiring 3 staff members from the Downtown Business Association. They will come on and be employees of the Downtown Development Authority to kind of keep carrying that role of business communications and marketing downtown that's critical. So that's those are probably the highlights of everything. I can talk about more, but I want to leave time for Sean to talk about what they're doing. I guess one last thing we really worked with the city and engineering department on is the expanded patios outside, and that they were able to circumvent a lot of red tape and be able to turn these around relatively quickly, working with the liquor license authority. And I think we've seen over 50 patio expansions within the city, primarily most of them downtown. So
That's great. As people have funneled in a little bit more, sorry for the technical difficulties. Just a recap of that. We're actually all getting very busy at the SPDC and the LBDC, so we had some conflicting links today. I want to encourage anyone that's got some questions about what's going on in our downtown areas, make sure you drop them in the chat. And then after we get an update from Sean, we'll start kind of addressing some of those questions as they're coming in. Terry, if you can help me out by watching for those, since I'm kind of on a modified device right now. Sean, I'll go ahead and kick it over to you. Thank you, Derek, for those updates from Fort Collins. And Sean, let's hear about what's going on in Loveland.
For sure. As COVID began hitting in mid-March, it was a time when we were getting ready to launch a membership program, which we do typically in the middle of March. It was a time we were getting ready to announce to the public all the events that we had planned, our Wednesday concerts. We were adding a bluegrass festival, blues nights. All of this stuff was booked, and it was definitely a period, especially for the first couple of weeks, trying to figure out what to do next. And because it felt like a year, those first couple of weeks. And we began making some contingency plans on our events. The events are really meant to draw folks downtown. We have a new Foundry Plaza, which we took responsibility for last year to book, with some brand new businesses that were just opening up at the same time. Mobetta Gumbo and Bato's Tacos opening up in that space, and Colorado Coffee. So we were hearing from those folks that those events were really important to draw traffic to the front, in addition to drawing people just to downtown in general. So, but pretty soon in early April, I just began doing one-on-one outreach. I really wanted to hear from how our businesses were struggling, what their issues were. And that's really where I think, and I was at home. I have a 2-year-old son with no childcare, so trying to juggle a child as well was a challenge. But the thing we learned pretty quickly by the middle of April was how restaurants were struggling. Our retailers most of them do a little bit of online sales, but we're talking 95% or more goes through their front door. And so with them being closed, that was a huge struggle for us. And so we developed a commercial rent assistance program through our DDA. And literally from the middle of May, we are paying the rent for about 30 plus of our downtown businesses, mostly the small restaurants and retailers for 2 to 3 months, to give them some assistance, because we're typically quiet, and we had a bigger February with our Sweetheart Festival and Valentine's activity, but we're typically quiet in January through March. And so coming out of a quiet season, we really start picking up in April. So to lose that pickup, we really wanted to provide some assistance, let them know that we are there to help them. And to be honest with you, we may have to do something like that again. It's something that we certainly know is an option. We don't know what the future here is going to be. But we wanted to resume a lot of our normal operations. We did curbside pickup signage, but it wasn't a huge issue because we don't have the parking crush that Fort Collins has. So it was fairly easy to access our downtown restaurants that were doing curbside pickup. But we put extra dollars into our beautification program. We wanted to make sure that downtown looked really good as people began returning. And then we focused a lot on the communication efforts. I know that was just mentioned for Fort Collins, but just letting people know what's available for curbside pickup, just sharing that details, because we have a pretty large social media presence. And then the other thing that I've spent time on, that I feel really good that some development projects that were under consideration pre-COVID. The bottom hasn't fallen out on any of them. And so still working with those developers. We have a project at 5th and Cleveland here called Cleveland Station that we're getting ready to bring to our DDA. We've agreed to the terms. Now we got to get the development agreement done. And so it's nice to see that a handful of projects that are being looked at aren't being slowed down. So I spent a lot of time checking in with those developers to see what they needed and just to continue the dialogue that we are supportive of them. We're a staff of 3, and I'm the full-time one, and we have Abby, who's our events person, and Fawn, who's our marketing person. Fawn has definitely been busy communicating this, but we've adjusted gears. Just like Fort Collins mentioned, I've never seen government move faster to help put together the patio program. We literally had put that together and had applications being submitted within a week, which is huge.
That's phenomenal.
And then the other thing we're hearing definitely from the public is that they want to return downtown. They love sitting outside. Obviously, we have great weather here. So we have the patio program. We've got about a dozen participants. But on coming this Saturday, we're closing 4th Street for a few blocks and letting patios just flow out into the entire street and bringing entertainers back. Our entertainers are our local musicians that they've been hurt huge too. So we're giving them a payday as well. But we're doing a Saturday night dine out for 10 weeks that I think will be met with a lot of a positive reception. We've got 8 performers, I believe, each week going to play and set up near the patios and just create a festive and lively environment to bring folks downtown, which is something that I think people are really interested to do. And that's been part of our effort over the last month, is just encouraging people to come back downtown. We have splash pads in our new Foundry Plaza that kids are now flocking to every day. We're doing kids events. We're still doing like yoga and fitness classes and with, I think we're capped at 20 for those. And so we're still trying to issue the invitation. But I think a lot of the public is still sitting at home, seeing the news, seeing what's happening in different states. And so it's a constant effort to build consumer confidence to come back downtown.
Yeah, well, and with the rollbacks in the last week or so on bars and nightclubs, people are, I think entering into another kind of period of caution and things like that. Before I jump into, because I've got a couple of questions to just kind of keep the conversation going. Terri, has there been any questions that have come in on chat that we should address?
No, nothing yet.
Okay. So one of the things that I'd like to hear from both Derek and Sean about is what have you seen? Because, obviously with COVID, we hear a lot about, oh, there's these businesses that are closing and it can be a lot of doom and gloom. But what have you seen businesses learn and be successful with, especially in our downtown areas, through this whole process of shutting down and then reopening? How have they kind of started to thrive in new ways?
Well, I think the first thing I'll tell you is that our downtown it's an experience. That most of the restaurants we have here, they're not built for. They weren't set up in mind with to-go food and things like that, and they really evolved to do that. And it's something that I hope will be a window for them into the future for additional business. We had one place here, Henry's Pub, that told me that on Mother's Day, he did, just in carry out, his dining room wasn't open. He did carry out equal to what he did in sit down last year. So it's become incredibly important to them to not lose the customers. And so that's a window that I think they have done well. I think our breweries and packaging beer has been really important to them to gain another piece, because they've lost the tap room sales. They've lost the keg sales, which are really important. So that's helped them evolve. But I've definitely seen businesses do their communications incredibly well, whether it's everything about wearing a mask, whether it's about what their specials are, it's about their hours. And so I think that has been a real positive to see really good communications through social media, very direct in a way that I think that some struggled with in the past.
Yeah, I would echo Sean as it relates to the restaurants. We've restaurants that typically were not situated to do curbside. It is something that they capitalized on, a good number of them anyway, and that has been able to keep them at least alive and moving forward. Now that they can open, and I think the patios and the outdoor dining has made a substantial difference. There's a few. This would be a rare, I would suggest, rare exception, but there are a couple restaurants that said because of the patio expansion that their sales in the first 3 weeks of June when they opened were greater than the first 3 weeks in June last year because of the expanded patio. That's probably a rare exception, but it's good to hear some of those anecdotal things. We are hearing, we'll get more sales tax numbers from as we go, and they kind of lag, and what we have is back in May, which is very low. But we are, from just conversations, it sounds like most of the businesses, I'm hearing that they're 50 to 60% of sales right now as it relates to retail and restaurant. That's kind of the figure I'm hearing. I don't know if that's just anecdotally. But I think one of the things we've heard from business, we've been able to convene a number of business groups, longtime retailers or restaurateurs together, and bring them together on some working groups and ask what are the needs right now. And they're working to the amount of cooperation right now, because we recognize the some of the things downtown, parking is a premium, but you're putting patios outdoors, taking those spots. But they understand, they're working together. I think one of the things we recognize is the retailers right now, they're really hoping and counting on fourth quarter, because that's their biggest do or die season, is the shopping season come fourth quarter is what we're hearing. That's typical. And they're worried that, an insurgence of something that shuts things down fourth quarter would be detrimental to them. So they're really looking at guidelines now that prevent that from happening in fourth quarter. That's what we hear a lot from the retailers right now. And we've seen a lot of the retailers that did not have an online presence really step up and learn how to make that happen. And so it'll be interesting to see as they move forward how that online presence, they capitalize on how that will change their need and size of stores and footprints of existing retails, if that'll be something that will change as time goes on. So,
that gives me a really good segue. Thanks for that setup, Derek. Because one of the things that I wanted you to both kind of think about and talk about a little bit is, with seeing our first kind of small set of rollbacks with bars and nightclubs, one of the things that our businesses need to be kind of concerned about is having a contingency plan for potential rollbacks. This is something to me that doesn't just apply to the downtown businesses. I think this is something that every business can kind of learn some lessons from. So with the discussions that you guys are both in with different organizations, different partner organizations, the city governments, county, everything like that, do you have some recommendations, whether they're a downtown business or not, for things that they should be considering in a contingency plan in case there is some kind of another rollback that's significant in the near future, or even 6 months from now?
Well, I think that is the worst case scenario we could ever imagine. But I think there's still the effort in the restaurants to maintain the carry out and a function of their business. I think that is critical. And we've heard that from, even as the restaurants were opening, that they wanted to continue focusing on that because it was better than they thought it was going to be. But for our retailers, I don't think there's a lot of thought on contingency just yet. They're just trying to figure out how to communicate back with their customers and working in a whole new world. And so far, some of the retailers have told me that their sales are down 30% so far this year, and that's pretty big. And that's one of the reasons why we came in to help with some rent for them over the course of the summer as things began to ramp up. But as we think about events, like Halloween events here are big, Christmas events are big draws for us, and we're not really sure what's going to happen for those. We do like a Festival of Lights event that can draw 5,000 people down here. And as of today, I can tell you, I'm not sure how in the world we would do something like that. Just the regulations on events are too much. And so we're kicking around some ideas on how to do those in another way. I just think the biggest challenge is to downtowns, whether it's Fort Collins or us here, is that it's an experience. That's our competitive advantage, coming into the retailers, drinking a beer at one of our, and so we're going to have to remain nimble. But to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why we've discussed, do we need to be prepared with another round of rent assistance? Because what we don't want to have happen is to lose 10 retailers or 10 storefronts on 4th Street. That would take us a while to fill. And we're in a different place in Fort Collins. I would call us an emerging downtown, where we're making the steps and we're getting better all the time. But it's, many of our businesses still struggle. There's still some small ones that are, that kind of live paycheck to paycheck. And so we just want to be there to listen. I think the one thing I've learned of this is the city of Loveland seems to be very responsive to any request to accommodate anything that they can. And so that's really important too. But I still think the feeling amongst our retailers is that their ability is really to have that door open. And that's the fear if it did close down, is that online sales just don't work as well for some of our smaller places that you want to try on the clothes, you want to see the little gifts you can buy. And so there's the challenge, I think. And I am hoping, praying really, that we don't see Arizona type things happen or Florida type things happen here, but who knows right now.
I guess I would kind of say the same thing as Sean as it relates to contingency. I think everyone's just in wait and see mode. They're just praying and hoping that they can keep the doors open. I don't know that there is much of a contingency for retailers right now, other than just ensuring that they have customers, that the doors can remain open and customers will feel comfortable coming downtown. I would say it's the same thing as far as the restaurant tours. I think they've capitalized on the to-go either curbside or Grubhub or deliveries or however that's working. They've capitalized, so I think that'll continue moving forward, and that may help them. But I know they have holiday parties and stuff like that may not occur as this year. So we'll see. I think we still plan to do the enhancements and provide as much of the experience as we can. The holiday light program, as you come downtown, all the holiday lights, that is planned to still be funded, and make sure that experience downtown. And I would say, Sean, the same thing here in Fort Collins. Like you said, I think local government, as it relates, the city and others are asking, how can we help right now? And they're open to suggestions. They're willing to help on a lot of things that in the past they may not. And so they're very flexible, and they're listening. So if there are ideas from businesses that you think would help the industry, certain industries as a whole, I think please share those ideas through either directly to them or representatives like the DDA or other organizations, chamber, or whatnot. I think cities and counties are listening right now and are open to ideas. So.
For me, I think the biggest fear I have for our downtown is the world of entertainment, because that is it is one of the things that we do well, live music. And Gary's on here from the flip side. We have a new movie theater that has opened up. We have the Rialto, and I'm just not sure where the public is yet about wanting to return to places. I know up in Fort Collins, I always go to Washington's and the Armory. I love going to those places, but like for me personally, I'm not excited to, even if they had shows again, to go up there until I know it would be safe. And I think that is a real worry of ours, is the world of entertainment. I know the Lincoln Center up in Fort Collins, I saw they announced their fall winter stuff, and I'm not sure what's going to happen here for the Rialto, and our brand new movie theater. Here it is summertime, and they can't have all the big summer blockbusters, and those folks that would come down for a movie would be having dinner or going to Mary's Mountain Cookies or doing something before or after, which was one of our big hopes. So that's really a worry about how will people come back to entertainment venues until there really is a cure. I'm not really certain. I know how I feel personally. I spend a lot of money in that world, but it's I think the public's going to have some pause there.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be definitely an ongoing concern. Because the thing with our business owners that I think you really hit on, John, is that they're also individuals too. So they've got their own set of personal concerns along with their concerns for their business. So you both kind of hinted at that our municipalities and things are really being receptive to ideas. So if there are business owners that have ideas that maybe they haven't voiced those ideas to people yet, are there, obviously you guys are both excellent resources to get those ideas heard, but are there any other channels that our business owners should be communicating with so that they can get their ideas heard, whether it's expanded hours or curbside pickup options or, the alcohol takeout, things like that, things that may help retailers? Who should they direct those ideas to and that feedback to about what they need for resources and what could help make them more successful in these challenging times?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to contact our council members, and that's one thing I like about Loveland is it feels like a smaller town. So I think to reach out to those folks are pretty easy to do. You can obviously talk to us, but you can contact the city manager, economic development staff. I think that they're all willing to hear, and I think that's really the best path to go.
Yeah, the city economic health department, Chamber of Commerce. You can reach out directly to council here. I don't know if you'll get the same response as you would in Loveland. That is something that as an organization we do a lot, is help navigate paths for whether it's businesses or developers or whoever to depending on the type of idea and what it is, we as an organization can help that person navigate the appropriate person to reach out to and the appropriate path to help avoid hurdles. And we can use those relationships to maybe make things happen quicker. So we're happy to do that as an organization here downtown. But again, I think city economic health as well is asking and doing those things as well.
So if businesses have ideas that they need to get variances and things like that, we've typically been directing them to like the county health department, because the county is really kind of pushing those variances through. So I'd recommend that if there are individual business owners that have ideas like, hey, I want to open in a bigger way than I am right now, also definitely reach out to the county health department, because they can actually grant variances. And they are doing their best also to move very quickly to make those things happen. And then, of course, if you have any ideas or feedback, both Derek and Sean are going to be excellent touch points for you. And same with the SBDC and the LBDC. If you have an idea, even if we can't help you implement it, we can at least get you connected with the right organization that maybe can do some action on that. Some of the ideas that we've seen happen, like some of the stuff with the patio programs, has been based on feedback from our local businesses. So I really want to encourage all the business owners that are on this call right now to take that into consideration. If you have an idea right now that will help your business and potentially other businesses around you, please don't keep that to yourself. Let's get that shared within the community, because we really are trying to act and implement these things as quickly as possible. On that same kind of note, looking kind of towards the future, I know everything is uncertain right now, but there is the potential for some cool things. So when it comes to our downtown areas, I know that you both have had to adapt very quickly. What are you actually kind of excited about for the near future, for, maybe even the mid to long term for our downtown areas? What do you see that's great that's happening? Sean, I know you mentioned that, some of those development projects actually haven't had the brakes pumped on them yet, which I find that really exciting. Is there something else that we should all know about that's coming for our downtowns that can give us a little bit of hope for the future?
Well, I think, yeah, that's, I would be in a pretty sad state personally if all of these development projects we have been chatting with and working on it had ground to a halt. So that is really positive for us, because I think here in Loveland, and it's probably a little bit different in Fort Collins, but when you see a new storefront get redone, whether it's a facade or you see some activity happening, it's really encouraging to the public, and there's really good support for downtown. I think as I look to the future, I'm hoping that people recognize that how much maybe they took it for granted, how nice of a downtown that they have, and all the different options and the entertainment options right here in their own community. And so I really hope that we gain stronger support for our community in the future. That would be a really beautiful thing. We have a foundry area that I mentioned earlier. I mean, last year we did a bunch of events, and the community was incredibly responsive to them. It was a good time with no active storefronts there, and the movie theater not open. And so we were real excited to do that. We were going to anticipate 2,000 people coming out on Wednesdays, and blues nights being really big. And so we've postponed all that, but we're going to be there to keep pushing it, because we're lucky we have some event background and we have some resources to do it. And so, looking forward, we want to continue to invite people. But I'm glad the development projects haven't stalled. But I haven't thought too much about the future, trying to weather this storm we're in, and making sure that we make it. We've lost a few businesses down here. And to be honest with you, I think that they were on their way out before COVID. COVID was probably the last nail, but they weren't in the best shape coming into it. But we just want to make sure we don't lose anymore. And that's really probably the biggest priority, is to make sure that the business community that we have and the investments those folks have made aren't lost for a lot of issues that are just out of business's control. That's been probably the biggest issue that's resonated with me, is that no one did anything wrong. None of our businesses did anything wrong. This is just a very challenging situation that's out of our control in a lot of ways. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I've a couple of things that the Downtown Development Authority will be doing it. When during the recession of 2008 and 9, we continued to invest in public projects, infrastructure projects. We had some different streets, Linden Streets, and other infrastructure projects that we invested money. Both the dollars went into the local economy, and started setting the stage for redevelopment after that. And we still plan to do that this year. Doing this year and next year, we're planning projects that have not stalled yet. We will see what happens, but we've partnered with Housing Catalyst, the Fort Collins Housing Authority. Downtown, we're going to do a 60-unit mixed-use affordable housing project right downtown. That is scheduled. It's under design right now, and we will continue moving that forward and putting investment in that. And we have our alley enhancement projects that you've seen downtown. We have two more blocks of alleys that are under design currently, and we're continuing to work with businesses on those, and we're going to invest in those and construct the plan is to construct those new alley enhancements 2021. So that's areas in which we hope our dollars can be invested back into the downtown. It brings jobs and more vitalization for the long term. That's so we'll continue to do that. I think one of the things as businesses, hopefully as long term, one of the things we recognize, not to put fault on anyone, but you have newer businesses that just got started, but the businesses that were here that survived the recession of 2008, we noticed they were the ones that were positioned a little bit stronger going into this. And those are the ones that chose to close down and remodel their businesses during COVID. I mean, they went through and they had that ability, but they've been strong businesses downtown. So they weren't overextended, and they had some ability to do that. And I think that'll be a long time coming, but hopefully as businesses that are able to make it through this, I think some of them will be stronger, and they'll recognize the need for some of those reserves, and no one would have predicted this, and you would never expect to have reserves for this, but some of those businesses that, like I said, been through a recession were better positioned for current situations. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Derek, that I'd like to hit on too. Just that idea of the businesses that have been through some kind of a disaster like this, because we've seen that echoed in Loveland as well. The businesses that went through the floods back in 2013, 2014, the businesses that kind of survived some of the fires that happened, because that impacted our local business community pretty strongly. They seem to, you're right, be a little bit stronger positioned. I know when I'm talking to our business owners, one of the things that I'm really excited about to see for the future is how our businesses are going to grow and be more adaptable in the future. Not only hopefully are they going to be stronger with a better disaster recovery plan, but they're also going to be more adaptable because they had to go through this where they had to change their entire business model a lot of times, essentially overnight. So hopefully our businesses that are going to make it through this are going to be more adaptable. They're going to be stronger for the future. And I think our cities are also going to be a little bit more better prepared for anything like this in the future, because let's face it, no one's gone through this before. When it comes to any kind of biological disaster like this, with relation to a virus and having to shut everything down. So I think our cities are also going to have some better tools that are going to help our businesses survive long term. Terri, do you have anything to add in terms of, what we're seeing for clients within Fort Collins and Larimer County as a whole, that's going to just make them a little bit better or stronger for the future? Anything that you've heard about that you're excited about?
Well, I think the retooling is the biggest thing. Maybe some people have realized, I need to get more online. I need to beef up my marketing, my online presence. And they kind of were like kicking the can down the road because they were just busy with other things. And yeah, sometimes when we are faced with severe difficulties, it presents opportunities for us that we might not have otherwise taken advantage of. So I think seeing the businesses that are changing their business model, doing those things to get their online presence situated and moving forward in that way, that maybe they've put that off for a while. So I think, in the presence of this disaster, there have been some things that have pushed people forward to take advantage of an opportunity and look at it as an opportunity. And then the other thing I would just say is any of those businesses that are still needing help with marketing, or, they kind of got started, but they're still struggling or they're not quite getting it. That we have several marketing specialists here at the SBDC and the LBDC. They focus in very specific niches. So social media, website development, SEO, rebranding. So there are ways that, I mean, they can connect with us and we can get them scheduled to meet with some of those marketing consultants to help them continue their retooling or to fine tune it and zero in to make it even better. And I guess I would just say, you know, we have other consultants with other specialties as well. So one of the things I'm seeing with a lot of our business owners is there's a lot of HR issues coming up. There's still confusion about, you know, okay, now they're opening up and, you know, now they have an employee that is showing symptoms and, you know, what is the protocol? Because maybe they just didn't have their employees working before, and now they have to like re-educate themselves on what the requirements, what the legal requirements are for them with those employees. And then offering their employees to come back to work, and the employees don't want to come back to work. I mean, there's a whole lot of HR issues, and we do have some HR specialists that can help walk clients through that. A lot of the clients too right now, I think, are, if they've gotten the PPP loan, they're starting to think about the PPP forgiveness, and some of the tools are now available through the SBA for doing those PPP forgiveness. And we have consultants that can help clients with that too. So there's great resources out there. Sean and Derek, you guys are doing a phenomenal job of connecting with the business community and offering your services and being in touch with them to help them along. And we just appreciate the partnership that everybody plays in helping everybody make it through this challenging time.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add to that too, Terry, with, you know, the services that we've got available, is I really want to encourage our business owners to take a really hard look at their cash flow right now. Do good, bad, and ugly projections. And if you don't know how to do that, contact the SBDC or the LBDC, and we'll get you connected with a consultant that can help with doing those projections. Because, you know, as we talk about contingency plans and how we can, you know, make sure that people are successful through this, you know, if you did take out those PPP loans or EIDL loans or anything like that, you really need to evaluate your cash flow. And especially with, you know, what both Derek and Sean have said about, you know, our businesses are seeing 30% decreases in sales. Like, you need to figure that into your cash flow. So if you haven't met with a consultant through the SBDC or the LBDC, it's free and it's confidential, and it's one of those resources that you can get connected with. So Terry, do you have anything, and can you finish closing us out? Thank you so much, Derek, and thank you so much, Sean, for being on the call today. We appreciate the updates.
Nope, I don't have anything else. I just thank Sean and Derek for your time here today, and we'd welcome anybody with questions or need for consulting to give us a call.
Yep. And thanks for your patience, everyone, with the technical difficulties. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.